Doing a Dan Barrett from UND 625, which is the little thing down here which you can't quite see. For those folks who are watching this at home, this is our orientation on accountability and traceability. So unions are accountable to the members much as a corporation is accountable to its stakeholders. Unions are also a charity and thus accountable to CRA. So there is a piece of legislation right now that's going through Parliament that's going to try and address enhanced accountability for unions by basically making them disclose their finances to the public, which is kind of like if you did that for businesses, they'd probably go crazy because then they'd lose their corporate advantage. But because it's a union right now and it's open season, it seems to be okay. So current private members' bill is moving through the House, which will make unions accountable to the public, and this would be equivalent to businesses being accountable not only to the public but to their competitors. Healthy competition occurs when a level playing field exists in affected areas, i.e. globally. But as we all know, globally there's a lot of differences between labor practices, so you don't have a fair labor playing field globally, and even within the provinces you've got huge variations. So that being said, in the absence of standardized types of regulation, stakeholders or members in the case of unions are exposed to hostile takeovers and bankruptcy. So essentially what's happening here with this current piece of legislation, if they push this accountability too far, what will happen is a lot of the smaller unions will fail, and a lot of the larger unions will be basically exposing their finances to the employer, which is great for the employer because then they know how much of a war chest they have, so that when they can actually give them the boots in bargaining, right? Which is great for the employer, not necessarily so good for the standard of living or your actual income. So just a couple more points on this orientation piece. I'm going to scroll down into my second paragraph here. So basically the bottom line is unions are required to balance off transparency with accountability. So members have a right to transparency to what's going on in the finances, but essentially they gain that right through their auditors. So they elect auditors within UND 625, and essentially those auditors are going to come and look at the books, and that's full transparency essentially to those auditors. They're sworn in, as you guys know, at the AGM to kind of basically say keep things confidential. So if there's anything within the finances that relate directly to a particular member, those rights of that particular member have to still be protected. So, the auditors can say, yeah, everything was on the up and up financially, but they don't have to turn around and say, yeah, and this person here, they got X dollars, whatever. So as long as it's, you've got the rights of the transparency bit is good. The members have what they need for transparency, and the rights of the individuals, because the union has a duty to represent, right? And so if you infringe on that ability for the union to represent, then you're going to have a problem insofar as members are not going to have confidence. And if members don't have confidence that their union is going to be able to represent them in confidence, then they're not going to come to the union, and that means problems are not going to be brought forward to management to get resolved, and we're on a downward spiral, race to the bottom. So that's basically my quick 4-minute version. So the whole thing again on accountability. So what happens is we have I'm giving the extended version now to turn it into a 10-minute video, right? So essentially, the extended version is our finance committee through the years looking at stuff, and at the end of the year they have financial statements. So twice we actually look at the finances. We look at it at the general membership meeting in May, which is a financial statement, which is usually received, and then finances are also again looked at the AGM. So this particular meeting only happens once a year for finance, which is going to follow this immediately. And at that meeting, basically, we're going to just hammer out the protocols that we're going to take in place to make sure that the books are current and complete for this year's submission to the membership on the 6th of November. And as far as the transparency piece, we've also now started to upload, or we've actually got one almost full set. One session is up on the page for committees. So when you go up on the UNDE website, you're going to be able to see a full set now of what actually happened over the years. So I'm going to flip to that real quick, just for the folks who are here, so they can see what I'm talking about. So when you go to the locals website and up here, it's talking. There's the agenda there for the meeting, who we are, and then there's this one here, local committees. Initially, we had it set up as committees and minutes, but it's actually shifted now direct to discussion. So if you go into this one for the committees, right, it gives you all the mandate of all the different committees. But way at the bottom of this thing, you're going to see a little link now to records of discussion. And that record of discussion there, declick, is going to pull up, hopefully, within a few years, the list of what was on the What's New page. So what we were tracking on the What's New page has now been more or less archived. And also what you're seeing now on the What's New page is just stuff that's happened since May until now, because that's when the last AGM was. And this summarizes basically everything that happened in the session, with the exception of what's happening today, because this is pretty well the last activity. So once that happens, that'll creep in here, and then you will get basically all of the records of discussion. So in here, you're not going to see anybody's name mentioned. You won't see any specific. You'll see references to stuff that is actually moved or carried, or motions and things like that, but you're not going to see the mover or the second, because records of discussions are just general. Whether or not we actually formalize minutes to go that deep is going to be dependent on if the committee needs to go that deep. But as far as the finance and traceability guys, they have to actually be confident that the records here reflect what actually was spent. So when you're looking at the books, right, for this year, if there's something in the books that kind of doesn't jive with this sort of layout of what happened during the year, a date may be off or whatever, but essentially the mandate should be reflected here. If it's not reflected here, then we need to know so that we can update it correctly, right? Or double check whatever the minutes actually said.
Are there actually minutes from the meetings that have names and whatnot, as opposed to this?
Yeah, majority of the minutes are actually incorporated within the appointments. So if you look at the way that the appointments are, there's a final version of the appointment that was sent as an update. I know that we had one in the bargaining committee meeting. They were supposed to be approved after the fact. So it's been kind of tough to get that really going. So we're moving into the record of discussion realm. But that's going to be something that we'll be reporting on at the AGM. And if the members are good with that, then we'll, because it has to be workable. If it becomes just a paper exercise, then you're not really getting a lot of traction. So, and again, for accountability to the members want to see bang for the buck, right? So they want to go back to this that PowerPoint slide back here, and this thing here. They don't want to see their dues going up. What they want to see is effectiveness going up, right? And that's what this chart represents. So basically, that's the presentation on accountability for this year. And I'd like to thank you. If you guys want to check out, there's more stuff again on our website. And if you have any questions, feel free to call our local line and get all that kind of good stuff. Okay, thank you.
Stop.